My name is DJ. For those of you who don't know me, I'm one of the pastors here at Christ Community Church, trying to help connect local mental health professionals with parents with practical tools is the hope for this. So I'm not the mental health professional, so I'm going to pray and then get out of the way and let Rachel take over. But would you bow your heads with me? Heavenly Father, thank you for this evening. Thank you for the hearts and the willingness of parents and guardians and grandparents and aunts and uncles to better connect with this next generation. This next generation that is often confusing, that can be frustrating, but we love them. And so I pray that tonight would be honoring to you, but I also pray that it would be edifying and beneficial to all of these parents who are just looking for better ways to connect. So be with Rachel, speak through her, give her peace and comfort, and help her to just share what she knows and her experience. We'll pray all these things in your name.
Amen.
Amen.
All right. It's nice to see everyone here. Let's get started. So I'm Rachel. I have gone to this church my whole life. I lead the young adults life group and Bible study here. That was last night. And I go to the Process Therapy Institute. It's in San Jose. It's about 15, 20 minutes from here. It depends on the traffic. And I see adults and children for therapy. I specialize in seeing children with anxiety and ADHD. Another unique thing about me is that I, in particular, am trained in using art as a way of healing, and that's something that's unique. And that includes sand tray, play, and all various kinds of art. So this is about what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be talking for 45 minutes, and we'll have a break. I'd love if you got to know each other more, talk about your children and what brought you here today, and then we'll have 30 minutes to ask questions. And I would love, during the presentation, if anyone has any questions about the slides, please raise your hand. I'd love for this to be a conversation. This is for all of you and for your understanding, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, please stop me. All right. And we'll begin with a little video.
Hi, and welcome to Headspace. So no matter what's going on in your life right now, no matter how many thoughts are racing around your mind, no matter how the body's feeling, just take a moment to sit down and take a big, deep breath, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. As you breathe in, a sense of taking in fresh air, the lungs expanding. As you breathe out, a sense of letting go of any stress in the body and the mind. Just feeling the muscles soften and relax. And close your eyes if you'd like to. One more. Breathing deeply in through the nose and out through the mouth. And just take a moment to pause. Allow the thoughts to come and go. And then just gently opening the eyes again.
So meditation can be one useful trick to help calm the body. I think of meditation similar to praying in the terms of you're both of them, you're closing your eyes. You might be holding your hands together, winding down, taking a moment out of your busy day that you're not thinking about all the thoughts, but you're just pausing. And so I think both can be really helpful in terms of just giving us a new deep breath to go on with the rest of our day. And so if you're ever wanting to find meditations, there are plenty of them on YouTube for free. You can do something very short like this, 1 minute. You can find ones that are 30 minutes or 45 minutes, and there'll be ones that are guided. And so and there's ones for kids too that will be more themed with different things. There might be like a Spider-Man or Baby Shark meditation. So I would review those, seeing how de-stressing they are first, but there's plenty of free options out there. So what is anxiety? Anxiety is useful, and it actually keeps us safe. When we are feeling unsafe, anxiety helps us to get ready to deal with whatever danger is coming our way. And so this is described as the fight or flight response. And here's a bit more about it. So when we encounter something scary or dangerous, we have blood rushing to our bodies, our pupils dilate, getting us to see or whatever is going on better. Our heart rate increases, so we start sweating, we start breathing more, we start feeling all shaky because we're ready to run or fight something. And so our legs are going to shake, same thing. Our legs are getting ready to either run away, hide. You might feel scared and you might feel angry. And so this is the kind of beginnings of anxiety. So anxiety in the short term will protect us from whatever danger. We run away from some scary person on the street. We slam on the brakes when there's a car in front of us, things like that. The problem is when we're stressed all the time, it's really not good for our health. There's a lot of impacts on our mind and our body, and it leads to a lot of different diseases, things that you wouldn't expect. So we always need to take a break from the stress. And that can be hard in our daily lives, especially today. But stress doesn't always have to be a bad thing. I know this is a little confusing, eustress. You won't hear it out in the world very much, but it's this kind of stress that we actually purposely try to get involved in. Things like roller coasters, getting married, having children, going to Disneyland, Christmas, moving, first day of school. These are things that are kind of scary, but we purposefully do anyway. And these sorts of things bring meaning to our lives. They motivate us to persevere, and they make life interesting. So the difference between distress and eustress is your attitude towards the situation. It's also related to how capable you feel that you are to handle the stress. It has a lot to do with how long the stressor is going on for. If it's something that goes on for too long, it might start to feel like you can't handle that stress anymore, and then it's going to start to become something you're not going to be enjoying. So I put two verses here from the Bible. First is the 2 Corinthians 4:8-9. We are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed. This would be an attitude of eustress versus distress, an attitude of I got this even though things are scary. And this is the kind of attitude we really want to have, and this makes all the negative outcomes of stress, you don't see that when it comes to eustress. And so that's what's the important part of having this positive frame of mind in terms of this. And second is James 1:2-4. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its works so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. So also in the picture there, you see that it's not about what's happening, it's the frame of mind. Anything we do in life can either be really, we don't want to do it, it's something we dread, or it can be something that we see a benefit of and be meaningful in our lives. So one of the unexpected parts of working with your child's anxiety is your own anxiety. It's important to think about how you deal with your own stress, because whether you realize it or not, your child is going to be copying you. When a child's younger, There's the concept of when the baby falls down, the toddler falls down and looks at you, and if you say, "Oh no," then the baby starts crying. The baby's going to look to you to see, how am I supposed to react in this situation? If they see you getting scared, they're going to get scared even though they don't know what's going on. And this is something that's important for a child's survival, and so it's something they're really good at. Even if you say, "I'm fine, I'm not scared at all," they're gonna notice it. They're gonna notice it somehow. So the best thing to do is, if you're scared, you can say you're scared. That's totally fine saying you're scared. But the important part is labeling, "Yeah, I'm really nervous right now, and this is how I'm going to deal with it." And showing your child how you manage your own anxiety. And so here are some things up top, little people, that might not be very useful. How many of you have had someone tell you, "Just relax"? And does that make you relax? No. And so it's very easy when someone is having a panic attack or is really stressed to say, "Just don't stress out." But if they could, they would, and that's the hard part, when we're not feeling the same stress as them. So even though we say all these things to try to be helpful, and we want to do these out of love, they might not be what that person needs to hear in the moment. And when we're going through these slides, just remember, anything that I say about your child, you can apply it to yourself as well. So you can just remember that even though you're not experiencing what they're experiencing, they're not, for the most part, ever lying about what they're feeling. It's just different than what you're doing. And so one thing you can do is just proceed as normal, not making a bigger deal out of what it is, because that way they can move on. If you stop what you're doing and participate in their anxiety and get anxious with them, they'll say, "Oh yeah, see, there's something I need to be worried about. Mom and Dad are anxious. I need to be anxious too." If you're continuing to remain calm, they can look to you to model off of. And if anyone has any questions, just come in here. Any questions so far? All right. So now I'm going to be going through different indicators of anxiety. This isn't like a surefire, this child has anxiety, but if you have enough of them, then it might be good to talk to your doctor or a therapist about these. So some of the symptoms would be wetting the bed or using the toilet too often, having sleep problems, waking up in the middle of the night, having nightmares, not being able to go to sleep, being afraid of the dark. And one of the things that could be helpful for this is trying to talk about this fear, but not just at bedtime. Earlier in the day can be useful. And there's some debate about whether you want to have your child sleep in your bed with you or not. I think that can be okay, but if they're sleeping in your bed because their bed is scary and yours is safe, then that's going to be a problem, because if you let them sleep in your bed, you're almost in a way reinforcing, yeah, your bed is scary, mine is safer. So I think it'd be okay if they slept with you, as long as it's not because theirs is not safe. You can validate what they're saying. Yeah, that sounds scary. You think that there's a monster in your bed? Yeah, that sounds scary. If there was a monster in my bed, I'd be scared too. But you also can reassure them of their safety in their room. And you can stay with your child for a bit until they fall asleep before going back. Having a routine is a way to have safety. And that's not just for bedtime. Consistent routines offer safety. Teddy bears and a blanket can also be something that gives safety. And just being consistent. Explaining to your child, okay, we're going to brush our teeth and we're going to get in bed, we'll read a story, and then we'll go to sleep. If your child is having fears of going to the bed or worrying about monsters, you can have your child draw the monster during the daytime. And then you can go about this in various ways. You can make the monster into something silly. You can draw something that's going to protect him or her from the monster, or make a game out of it in certain ways. You can also take some water, put it in a spray bottle, make some monster spray, or make some kind of ritual where the kid's going to feel safe and connected with you. The connection with you and then also with God can be really important in this. So other indicators of anxiety are random tantrums. This is when a child is aggressive, very clingy, or is frequently crying, having sudden mood changes, being irritable, and being out of control. And these might seem just completely random in the moment. So a lot of people, kids and adults included, don't know how to express their feelings and when they're afraid. If you notice for animals, a lot of times the only time an animal might bite someone is when they're scared, like a dog might bite a person when they're afraid. And the same thing kind of works with people too. When we're scared, sometimes we lash out. And we don't know how to control that. So then the kid might not know why they're acting the way they are either. And so it can be important to help the child link how they're acting to a certain feeling. So you can say that I'm noticing you're having a tantrum right now. I think it's because you're scared. And depending on the age, you can just say you're having a tantrum because you're scared, or have a bit more of a dialogue with the child. And it's important to validate and reassure them that you love them and you care about them and that you're there. And that it must be hard to not really know what to do in that moment. But you also still want to not have your child having a tantrum. And so it's important to come up with what you're wanting to do about it and help model new ways of what to do when you're expressing fear. So besides hitting your brother or your sister, what can we do instead next time we're afraid? Maybe you come tell me that you're afraid. What about you grab your teddy bear? And your child can come up with some ideas, and you can offer some ideas as well and try them out. Do we have any questions? Okay. Another really hard form of anxiety that I've been seeing is school refusal or separation anxiety. This has been especially common after COVID, when people have been at home and now they're suddenly having to go to school. And this can also be seen in being afraid of home, being away from home, and difficulty interacting with peers. And so sometimes it's because they're afraid if I leave home, something bad's going to happen to my parents. And there's a sense of I need to almost protect my parents. And that can even be seen in little children, like 5 or 6. And so that's a surprising one. Sometimes it can just be bullying. They don't want to go to school because of bullying or homework. So you can check in with the teachers, but there's not always necessarily a distinct cause of school refusal, but there are things we can do about it. So that's the good part. Okay. And I'm going to let this woman explain it for me.
Cycle of school anxiety is exhausting. Even if you do manage to get your child into school, you may well know that you're facing the same battle the next day. It can feel like you're both on a hamster wheel. Young people can experience school anxiety for a variety of reasons: friendships, bullying, academic pressures, or even something that's happening at home. So the first step is to identify what is causing your child's anxiety. Young people can find it really hard to do this, so you can help them out by offering possibilities to help them focus. And a great way to do this is with the anxiety iceberg. So draw an anxiety iceberg on your page with a tip at the top and a large space underneath the waterline. Then using stick art, keywords and phrases, draw the behaviours that you can see at the tip. So you might have not sleeping. You might have feeling sick. You may have really big emotions being displayed at home. And your child saying, I can't go. Then you can start to be curious about what might be happening underneath. So you might say, I wonder if the playground is too noisy and busy and loud. I wonder if you're finding some of your work confusing. I wonder if you're struggling with some of your relationships with the teachers. Encourage your child to express what they're feeling, and you can record it for them, or better still, ask them to write and draw how they're feeling, so it becomes a real record of their voice. Doing this is much less pressured than asking direct questions, such as what's wrong, but it also contains their anxiety and opens up conversation. The other great thing about this activity is you can use it to focus your conversation with the school. The more they know, the better place they are to help. The class teacher, Senko, tutor lead or pastoral lead is usually the first person to start this conversation with. Show them the anxiety iceberg and look at the specific worries that your child has and work together to make specific changes. For instance, you might know that your child finds the overcrowding at the beginning of school really anxiety-provoking. Something we find really helpful is have your child start 10 minutes early and do a job such as setting up or tidying the classroom. This gives them a calm handover and a real sense of purpose. For an older child, they could be assigned a mentor, perhaps somebody on the pastoral team, and they can meet them in the morning for a safe space and use it again during the day if required. In general, be honest about what's happening. If your child can't attend, then say the reason why. Say they're unable to attend because of their anxiety, rather than offering something like they're feeling unwell. The more school can understand, the better they can support, and it gives them the opportunity to work with you. Remember, forcing a child into school without changing anything isn't going to work in the long term. It creates a vicious cycle of anxiety, and your child won't be in the position to learn. If the person you're talking to isn't helpful, find somebody who will. You can always escalate it to the head of year or the deputy head. Really helping your child to explain what they're feeling, really listening to them is the best place to start.
All right. So that was UK, so just principle if the teacher isn't helpful. So using art can be a great way to have a conversation with your kids. There's a lot of times they might not know how to express themselves in words, but they can draw a picture of what their anxiety might look like. You can even have them draw a picture of an anxiety monster and what that would look like. And then you can draw something that maybe feels safe, and having a way to feel safe at school. What would that look like to feel safe at school? And the child will be able to express in art sometimes better than speaking out loud. So that can be useful. If it's separation anxiety, having something that they can take with them into school from home, like a stuffed animal or a bracelet that you have of one bracelet and they have a little bracelet, anything that reminds them of you or home can be useful as well. So moving on, another indicator of anxiety is digestive issues. Stomach aches, vomiting, headaches, feeling unwell, increase or decrease appetite. Now, so something that's really important to consider with this is when it happens. So is your child always calling home right before a stressful event? Is it every time there's a math test, my kid is suddenly sick, class presentation, birthday party? Now, it doesn't mean that your child is faking it. A lot of people think that they're just pretending to be sick. When someone's feeling anxious, we saw at the beginning the fight or flight response. Because you're trying to run away from danger, your body doesn't think that's the best time to digest a sandwich. Or they think, we have to go. So it stops all the digestive process and focuses on other parts of your body. So what will happen is this anxiety will end up hurting your stomach, or at least hurting the digestive process for the moment. And so a lot of kids will say, my stomach hurts, my tummy hurts. And it might be their way of saying, I'm feeling anxious right now. And so it can be important to help your child identify when their physical symptoms are coming from their anxiety. So with that being said, it's important to notice, is this a medical concern? Is this anxiety? Are they causing each other? And so, like I said, the when it's happening is going to be a good indicator. If there's a frequency, you can write a log and notice all the times. If your child's it's always getting random headaches, note what's occurring and then what the event is. Is there any event that's occurring nearby? And so reach out to your child's doctor if there's phantom illnesses going on, or a therapist, or both, because it's going to be hard to tell at first. And so a little bit more of the symptoms can be difficulty concentrating. If you're stuck in your head about all these things, it's going to be difficult to focus on the present moment when you're worried about what feels like worried about your life and concerned about your family. So it's more of they're focusing on all these other things in their head. And that's also with the fight and flight response, feeling tense and fidgety, and also having a lot of negative thoughts. So with all that being said, we were talking about anxiety. Now, this is PTSD, or symptoms of trauma. PTSD can come across when there's abuse, when there's something like a natural disaster, maybe a car accident. And so anxiety can look a lot like PTSD, and a child can have both. And so we already learned that anxiety can cause nightmares, insomnia, increased irritability, withdrawal from friends and activities, and difficulty concentrating in school. And so does PTSD. So that's kind of confusing, right? It's going to be hard for you to know which one it is. And that's why that there's the doctors and the therapists. And a doctor or therapist might not know these things right off the bat. If a therapist sees your child for one session and you say, my kid has all these things, they're going to need to know more about your history. They're going to need to work with your child for a bit to see these things. ADHD as well, you might have some irritability. You're going to have difficulty concentrating. There's going to be some related symptoms. So you might not know right off the bat. So be patient. And with these sorts of things, if it seems like anxiety, it might be anxiety, but you might want to check and see. Okay. And so for this, the length of your breath is really important. So I want everyone to do some breathing exercises with me for a moment. Now, before we get calm, I'm going to make everyone anxious. So if you take just deep breaths, it's not necessarily going to make you calm down. It's about how you take deep breaths. So if you inhale and do short exhales, you're going to go really anxious. So try it with me. Long inhale, short exhale. How are we feeling, guys? I'm feeling ready to go run. So we want to take a deep breath, but we want our exhale to be longer than the inhale. Otherwise, you're going to be ready to go fight a monster. So And also for this, you'll notice some of the kids are still fidgeting around.
We're going to
Kids meditating and being mindful and breathing is not going to be the way adults are going to do it. So if they're wiggling and all that, it's okay. It's if they're just absorbing it a little bit. So, and these things take practice even for adults too. So.
breathing exercise. And we're all going to breathe together to start, okay? So I want you to focus on this ball. And as it gets bigger, you're going to inhale. And as it gets smaller, exhale.
We can do it with them too. Why not?
Breathe in. And breathe out. Will you hold it out and do it for us while we breathe?
I want to do it.
Ready?
At a time.
Thank you.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to be doing a breathing mindfulness. I want you to sit back, get comfortable in your chairs, and if you'd like, you can close your eyes or close them part way to just have a soft gaze on the floor. And now I want you to put your hands on your belly, like this, and I want you to just breathe in, feel your bellies rise, and breathe out. And do that again. And now you can just go to normal belly breathing. And you can keep your hands on your belly if that helps you focus on your breath. And try to quiet your mind as much as you can. And when you notice your mind thinking about other things, whether they're voices you're hearing outside the room, or your own thoughts in your head, just return your focus back to your breath. Okay. And go ahead and take a real big breath now and open your eyes. Okay. And then we'll go on about our day.
All right. So here are a couple of really cute ways you can make these into games. So I've got some little bubbles here, and this can be used to practice deep breathing. So you can make really big bubbles. And so kids love bubbles. So if you get them, this is a great way to practice. Try to make the biggest bubbles you can. Once they learn that the longer they can control the breath, the bigger the bubble, they're going to be all over that. And it's hard to hyperventilate when you are blowing bubbles. You have to go slow and controlled. And so if you're going, it's not going to work. So that can be a fun way to practice. And the other is called flower breathing. And so one aspect of this is like you're smelling a dandelion, you're breathing in, smelling the dandelion, and then blowing out with all the little fuzz, the white fuzz, and you're blowing it all away. And so you can do like that to teach your kids. You can also make it all different kinds of ways. You can ask them, what's your favorite dessert? And they might say, cookies, cake, I love cake. And so you practice, okay, we're gonna take a second and we're gonna pretend to smell the cake. And you can almost smell it. You can try practicing. Okay, everyone pretend, you think of your favorite food and try to smell it. You might be able to if you try really hard and have a good imagination. So that can be two ways that breathing can be a fun game for kids. I really like this one, the 1 minute brain dump. This is good for kids. This is good for adults. This is really good when anyone has a lot of things that are racing through their brain and they can't focus on the one thing they're trying to focus on. This might be good if you're coming home from work and your kid is wanting to play with you and you have all these things in your brain. And this is about taking everything that's in your brain, taking 1 minute to put it all down. So you draw a circle And it's good to draw as a circle because that means you only have limited space. You're not writing an essay about your problems, you're just jotting it down. The time limit is because we don't want to be thinking about our problems all day. We just want it to have it there for the moment. There's a lot of things I can help with. It helps with your focus and concentration, decreases stress. It makes you more aware of everything that you're carrying through your day, because sometimes these things will be there and you're having them like a heavy backpack, and you can take this backpack off and you can put it back on when you're ready to think about these problems. Let's see, I can talk a little bit more about that. So we're going to use this later. This can be a part of your day if you don't know where to start on a project, let's say. Maybe this is, I've got history homework, science homework, math homework, all these different homework assignments, and I got to go pee, and I want to do video games, and do my friends like me? You can write all these things and say, okay, what's the one thing I want to focus on right now? And now you have something placed that if you later on, you won't forget those worries, that because those were important things, they mattered to you. You can go back and say, oh, okay, that's where it is. And now you don't have to worry about it. So I want everyone now to not think about unicorns. Don't you dare think about unicorns. No unicorns in your brain. I bet you are all thinking about unicorns now, and that is the only thing that you're thinking about. You're not thinking about pandas. What? No, it's just unicorns. So when we specifically try to avoid thinking about something, this can be fears, worries, pain, grief. We often only end up thinking about that thing more. And so that can be very difficult, is what it's like when we're trying to not think about something. And that's what we do with anxiety. We say, don't be worried, don't be worried, don't be worried, don't be worried. And we're worried. That's the only thing we're thinking about. So this is going to be talking about why avoiding your problems and your emotions is bad. So we've got this dog here, but the kid's really scared of this dog and think that dog is going to bite me. And so if he's scared, he avoids the dog, and he's safe. He is not bitten by that dog. He ran away, he's safe. So now he knows that he is safe because he ran away from the dog. But we don't know if that's true. He could have pet the dog and be okay, but we don't get to know that. We don't get to try that out because we didn't try. So he's still worried. He hasn't proved it any other way, so he's going to continue to be scared of that dog. So avoidance causes more suffering. Anxiety is always in the future. It's worried about what's going to happen next. When we're feeling sad and depressed, it's when we're stuck in the past. And so with both of those, it causes more suffering instead of accepting the current moment. Avoiding can be a debilitating form of protection, but it only reinforces the belief that that anxiety is needed, but it prevents the opportunity to prove otherwise. And so that's what I mean when it says don't rescue your child from their anxiety, is let them feel anxious. Don't just say, oh, okay, you don't have to do that homework assignment. You can stay home from school. You don't have to go to that birthday party. I can try to get accommodations for your teacher so you don't have to give a presentation. These things work in the short term, but they don't teach your kid the skills to handle this. And so we want the child to figure out ways to manage their anxiety, not for the anxiety to go away. The anxiety might still be there, might be there forever, but how do we live with the anxiety? So on the bottom, we have someone saying, I'm going to accept the panic, I'm going to accept it, I'm going to accept it. Is it gone? Is it gone? Please go away. It might be this for insomnia, for sleep. If a kid can't sleep, okay, no nightmares, no nightmares. Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. It's not going to work very well. And this is avoidance disguised as acceptance. But what we want to do is accept it, welcome it. And that's going to sound crazy, but acceptance is acknowledging the discomfort without fighting it. And so saying, anxiety, there you are again. Welcome. I actually want to feel more anxious. I would be so happy if I felt even more anxious right now. Now, we don't want to feel more anxious in reality, but it's that acceptance of, if I felt more anxious, that would be okay, instead of, I really hope I don't start feeling panicky right now. Holding on to the uncomfortable feeling and tolerating it and getting through it is how you manage anxiety. It's not by not getting into anxious situations, because they're always going to happen. One way to do this is scheduling a worry time. Now, this is not about stopping your worrying, but it's about reducing the amount of time it impacts you during the day. So, as we already know, not avoiding makes it more prevalent, but we're just going to take a portion of our day, just like the 1 minute brain dump. So we're going to limit the time that we're worrying, 15 minutes, 30 minutes max. If you or your child watches the news or reads in the news, this might be social media, depending on the child, set a timer, and this is your worry time. I get to worry about earthquakes. I get to worry about kids at school liking me. This is a time when I freak out about anything I want to. And so with this is Matthew 6:24. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. And what that means is that we're going to take things one day at a time. Thinking about all the problems that we will ever have in our life is just too overwhelming. And so we're going to take a portion of the worries, focus on what we need to do for today. And then we're going to go to the next day. We'll focus on that. It's taking it in little portions, making life seem not quite as overwhelming. As I mentioned earlier, routines are really important. And we don't want to be overthinking at bedtime, because that's going to impact with our sleep. So we want to make it earlier in the day if possible. It can be a little bit close to bedtime, just probably not at bedtime if it's impacting sleep. Picking a worry spot is important. Beds are for sleeping, and so don't mix your worry time with your place of comfort and safety. That might start associating being in your bed with that feeling of being unsafe, and that's what we don't want for nightmares. And this relates to what Jesus did, which I think is really cool. Mark 1:35 said, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. So it's important to take that time of your day to pray and whatever your worries are, thinking about them. The fourth step is we want to have an ending of this worry time. We don't want to be thinking about our worries all day, because then it's not a worry time, it's a worry day. So we want to have a pre-planned activity that's going to mark the end. We're worried, now we're going someplace else. And so these are called grounding exercises. So when we can think of anxiety as our head kind of floating away into the clouds and we're just tossing back and forth, we want to be firm, sturdy, and still, and that's what grounding means. And so this engages your body, your mind without judgment. Things are going to happen in life. We're going to feel anxiety. We just say, oh, I'm feeling anxious, and there it goes. We're not trying to change the thoughts as they pass. So there's a lot of really fun ones. We talked about breathing deeply. We talked about savoring a scent. This can be taste too. Mindfully eating and drinking can be a really good one. Exploring different scents like candles, different foods can be really good. Whatever brings you back to the present moment. Drawing, painting, doodling. That's why art therapy is so good, because when you're painting, you can't be thinking about the past or the future, because I'm thinking about this line that I'm drawing. That's why it works. When you're exercising, you're walking, you're thinking of your feet going one after another. That's why it makes you go present moment. It reduces anxiety. Taking a bath, taking a shower, the reason why this calming goes back to the present. Your senses, whatever engages your senses is going to be in the moment. So if you can't wait to have your worry time, you just got to worry now. This is when we use the 1 minute brain dump. And you can take your worries from your brain dump and bring it back. Say, okay, I'm pulling out my worries. This is my time. And so that can be helpful. The sixth step of this is consider what worries are things that you have control over and things you can change. You can help your child figure those things out of what they can do. And so you'll be able to work with them on things that are empowering for them. And some of those things are going to be things that you need to help them with, and some things are just for God to deal with. For the ones that your child or you can't deal with, you have to work on letting them go, and that can be through mindfulness and self-compassion. And being compassionate towards yourself is how you would treat a friend, saying, oh, I'm so sorry, that must be really hard for you going through right now. Giving yourself a hug, giving your child a hug. So for this one, this activity, the tracing of the hand also can be a sensory activity that can be very grounding, just doing that in itself. But you see in the middle is the things that I can control or a child can control, and then there's things outside. This is something that's very fun to do for kids, very, very useful. And you can draw your own hand too in that, and have your child trace your hand. And you can talk about the things that you can control and then the things that maybe you'll give to God. So for this one, it's called a worry box. You can take a tissue box or a shoe box, and you and your kid can decorate it together. I gave a couple different examples. You can make it into a monster. You can make it more cute. And this could be something that they bring to school with them. It can be things from the 1 minute brain dump, and they can fill up the box of worries during the day. At the designated worry time, they can open the box and you and your child can pray and talk over these worries together. And then you can throw away the worries that are resolved. The important and cool thing with this is that for teenagers, maybe they don't feel comfortable talking to you, but they might feel a little bit safer putting something in this worry box. And this might be a safer way for them to bring up riskier topics with you. Another alteration with this is you can get a little Altoids tin, and you can turn this into a gratitude or prayer box. Philippians 4:6-7 says, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your mind in Jesus Christ. So you can put this into a more of a Christian stance if you'd like, by making this something that they bring with them, and this is something that you're giving to God and you're praying about it. You can also write every time you're thankful. One of the other things about anxiety is not feeling like you're in control. So if you do have a relationship with God and you can give it to someone else, that can be very relieving. And having the sense of gratitude can be useful for children and adults as well. For moments that feel like a crisis, when the kid's having a temper tantrum, panic attack, when things are really out of control, that's when we use the grounding exercises. And as I said earlier, anxiety separates us from the present moment, and we want to focus on what's happening this second. The way we can do this is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is a great game. This can be good on road trips. This can be good anywhere. Don't worry about the numbers. If you forget, I can't remember them very well, it's okay. Just name some things you can see. So we can practice this right now. I want everyone to look around and just see 5 things in the room that you can see, or outside. Just look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, what are 4 things you can feel? I can feel my shoes, my hair, this thing. I can feel my shirt. There we go. 3 things we can hear. Okay. 2 things you can smell. Now, we might not always smell things in the room, but you can always imagine those smells too. That's what we go back to. And then 1 thing you can taste. How's your breath smell, taste? And this is when I go back to that dessert one. You can pretend to smell your favorite food, and then you can taste your favorite food. But everyone pretend to taste a taco, ice cream, pie, apples, and you can almost pretend and taste it if you don't have real food with you. But this is a game that you can play very easy, free, accessible, transportable, and it can really help in the moment. It's similar to playing I Spy, so it can be fun. So we're going to take a break now, and then we can come back and ask questions. I really would hope that everyone talks to each other, maybe connect, talk about why you came, enjoy each other. And I've got a little art activity if we've got time to at the end. So, all right. Take a little break. We'll be back at 7:40.
How precious is my Savior's blood, your beauty of heaven wrapped in my shame.
Let's keep going. So I want to know what questions you have. I want to know all the random questions. Doesn't matter how big or small. What do you guys want to know about anxiety? You can tell me what you know about anxiety and play it off me. Whatever you want. Yes.
My 4.5-year-old granddaughter grinds her teeth when she sleeps, like a lot. And just wondering if that's a sign of anxiety, or because I don't hear it during the day.
Did everyone hear that? No. 4.5-year-old grinding teeth at night during her sleep. That would be something that would be hard for me to tell right off the bat. That's one of those things I'd ask the doctor about and see. That one I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. Is she anxious during the day, or?
I think so.
Yep, sometimes.
Sometimes?
Her daughter.
Yeah. A lot around eating. She's a very picky eater. So a lot of times there's like the struggle of, can I eat this? So yes, meal times, she's anxious with her little brother. She's anxious with her toys, like I think he's gonna come over and mess up what she just set up to play with. This little one, lots of things.
I'd be scared of my toys being, messed with too.
I do think she has anxieties throughout the day.
Yeah, for grinding teeth, that one in particular, I would have to probably ask the doctor about. I'm not sure about that one.
Or maybe the dentist?
The dentist, yeah. Dentist is a good one.
I wear a mouthwash, that's all. I don't know if that's appropriate for a little one, but the doctor used to tell me to do exercises like that, and then also calming medications. But for a child like that, I don't know. but dentist too. But if it's an anxiety confused day, then maybe one of her techniques would be.
Thanks. Does anyone else have a question about anxiety or about art therapy? Yeah?
The different types of art therapy.
There are so many different kinds of art therapy. Well, we did some of them here. And so, I like doing sand tray. That's a little bit different than art therapy. That's more play therapy. There can be collage, cutting out images in a magazine and arranging them. So finding images. There can be something called eco art, where you're getting sticks and leaves and using those to make art. I had a class that I was in just this week where we got sticks and leaves from outside and used them as paintbrushes and saw what that felt like. You can use dirt and different materials for dyes and pigments. Getting back in the connection with nature. There can be a lot of things where you're drawing. A lot of times people who are perfectionists have a difficulty drawing an image, and we'll see how much that comes up. I've got an art directive that I would love for everyone to do after this. A lot of people get worried about there being good or bad art. And that doesn't matter in art therapy. So if you're interested in trying it for yourself, like, oh, I wonder if art can help me, don't worry if you're not good at drawing. That's not the point. Painting can be a part of this, watercolor. You can do clay. Clay can be useful. It's whatever types of art there are. Anything is welcome in art therapy. Yeah. And you can decide what art is for yourself as well. Well, if any other questions, I'm going to make you guys do some art now. Yes?
The thing we did with the hand.
Yeah.
Child can't write yet. Does the parent write for them, or do they draw little things in there?
They can do either one. The parent can write them if they're little. The kid can scribble. Whatever gets the point across. Yeah. All right. Art directive time. All right. So this is kind of how we feel sometimes about different things. So I'm going to have everyone draw a small problem, not a big problem, but a small problem or a stressor, like giving a presentation or going to the dentist or a party. And so we've got plenty of paper here. You can cut it up into 3 parts. You can use 3 pieces of paper. We have plenty of paper, so don't feel afraid. So on one piece of paper, I want you to pick your problem, draw the absolute worst case scenario. You can pick something that you're actually a little worried or anxious about. It might be useful. And so once you do that, just let your brain go wild, like just devastation, awful, horrible nightmares. This is what you're having a presentation and you forgot your pants, that kind of thing. Then you draw a second image. This is going to be best case scenario, winning the lottery, everyone is your best friend sort of deal. And the third image is going to be what you actually think is going to happen in the situation. And we call this reality testing. This is where your child gets to see that their worst case scenario might not actually be the only outcome. And the reason why we draw this out, you could say, oh, well, I can think about this in my head. But when you physically see it on a piece of paper, you will see the difference is a lot easier. It's remarkable how drawing what you're thinking feels different.